Another brand new Intel Lunar Lake equipped laptop. This one here is the Galaxy Book 5 Pro 360 by Samsung. What a name. This one here is a super thin all metal laptop here. 16 inches. Look at that. Super thin little guy. It's also a 360 laptop, meaning it converts, goes around, turns into a little tablet type thing. It does also come with a pen if I have it here. A little pen, so you can do a little drawing on the laptop. What's cool about this laptop here is it is a Samsung kind of Galaxy Book type thing. So it's very premium, very sleek, you know, kind of going for a little bit of a MacBook style vibe. But this time it actually can pull it off because it's got the new Lunar Lake chip from Intel, which gives it incredibly good battery life, shockingly good battery life. But it still also has really good performance. You're not compromising on either here. So let's jump into this review here. I mean, this is a beautiful laptop with an AMOLED screen, super premium. Let's not take too much more time. Let's jump right into the review and see if this laptop is good for you. The brand new Samsung Galaxy Book 5 Pro 360 right here with the brand new Lunar Lake 16-inch model. You can see their nice brushed metal. Very nice. Very thin, impossibly thin almost. Right? Very, very, very thin laptop. Tiny little screen there. The actual chassis is very thin as well. All metal design, very premium in the hand, very sturdy. Very sturdy, zero flex on it, which gives some confidence. Very nice. Exhaust out the back there, intake in here. Speakers firing down. Yeah, very sleek. Open up and look at the inside of it. You can see I've turned it on, obviously. AMOLED screen, semi-gloss, so they do a really good job of maintaining almost like the appeal of a glossy screen, but it's also not super reflective. A lot of these screens can be pretty reflective. Super hyper low profile Samsung keyboard with numpad. I prefer a slightly more aggressive keyboard that has it's raised up a bit more. That's fine. Gigantic monstrous trackpad, and then your hinges there. And so you can go all the way around, right? Because it is a drawing tablet style thing. So that's the form factor there, however you want to use it. Right, very nice, very pretty. We're going to check the weight on it. I'm going to bring in, from time to time, another Lunar Lake, because there's only one realistically on the market right now, the Lenovo Aura edition. So we'll bring that in from time to time, do some comparisons. Check the weight here. 1,700 grams. Check with the little charger. I don't know how many watts that is. It doesn't actually say. And the wire, I don't know where it went, but 1820. Very nice. We're going to bring in just this other one here. This is the Lenovo Slim 7i Aura Edition. Another Lunar Lake chip in this one here. A little bit of a higher end one. A little bit lighter there. 1532. Excellent. 15-inch laptop. It's like 15.3 versus 16-inch laptops. So obviously there's a size difference there, depending on what you need. They're both very sleek. You can see some fingerprints there because I've been using the Lenovo as a daily driver. Both very thin. This one has a tiny little bit of feet raising it up. The Lenovo has slightly more feet raising it up, but they're both super thin laptops. Very nice. We'll do some other comparisons as we go along. It's not about the Lenovo, but I will bring it in because it's one of the only other options if you want to get into the Lunar Lake stuff, at least right now at the time of the video. When this video, if you watch it down the road, that might be different. So very nice, very sleek package. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get into it. Look at the inside. Jesus, that was the hardest to get into laptop that I've ever experienced. I needed to use a freaking X-Acto knife, get under the lip here, and then get in here. Unbelievably hard to get into. So yeah, just be aware of that. Holy smokes, you need a freaking knife, like a razor blade, and then once you get past that, so absolutely destroying the laptop. Horrendous. Just some structure stuff in the center. Take my time, try not to bend it. Okay, holy smokes, was that hard to get into. Jeez, still not in. Good Lord. That was the hardest to get into laptop I have ever experienced in my entire life. Ever. Outside doing reviews, just doing personal stuff, horrible to get inside this laptop. Absolutely horrible. You need to use a razor blade, get under one of these lips here, then somehow manage to get one of these things without scratching the shit out of your laptop. Holy crap, that was hard to get into. Terrible. Anyways, yeah, just a piece of metal. Try not to freaking break it. So, okay, so let's have a look inside the laptop now that I'm irritated, and reset. So inside the laptop is relatively unserviceable, but there's a couple nice things here. One NVMe, you only get one, you don't get two, but it is there. You can swap it. Speakers, that'll be firing kind of out this way, out the sides there. So that should sound pretty good, realistically. What else do we see here? Big battery, 73.9, so 74 watt hour battery. That's huge for such a thin laptop. And these Lunar Lake chips are incredibly efficient, so the battery should last forever. Other than that, you don't see anything else. RAM is, I wouldn't call it soldered. There's no SODIMM on these, so you can't upgrade it. It's also not soldered to the motherboard. They don't do that anymore. The chip is actually on the CPU package, not in the CPU, but on the package. So, you know, if you get that Lenovo one that I brought in for a moment there, you can get that with 16 gigabytes or 32, but it's actually part of the chip package. So when you upgrade the CPU, it increases the RAM from 16 to 32. Here, Samsung's only offering 16, and there's no way to upgrade it, and there's no like on motherboard. It's actually in the CPU package. Should run relatively quiet, and it should run relatively cool as well. Serviceability is non-existent other than the NVMe being upgradable, because even the Wi-Fi is soldered. So not much reason to open it. I guess you can open it up and swap out the NVMe, which you might want to do because you only get one. Put in a 2 or 4 terabyte or something like that. So, and at least it's a full size, not a 2232 or 2242. It's a full 2280. So, okay, so let's have a look at the laptop here. We'll look at the physical stuff before we get into some of the software and that. So much crap these days. We'll come in here and we'll look at the keyboard to start here. So this is a hyper kind of super low profile keyboard. Not my thing by a mile. But I understand why some people would like it. It's kind of MacBook-esque. Very similar to MacBook, actually. Probably better or similar. I mean, at least you get a numpad, which is nice. Very similar to MacBook, though. They're snappy enough, realistically. Black, you can get some fingerprints on there. Numpad is a little bit shrunk down, but that's fine. It just gives a little more room. Function row up there with things like brightness and that. You have to go like that there. And then looks fine. Very nice. You might get a little bit of fingerprints on them, but realistically, quick wipe down will do the trick here. And then the actual body is light metal. So that's what I prefer. I'm not a big fan of super dark laptops because they get fingerprints all over them. This is, you know, you go like that there. You give that a little wipe down. I've been using this laptop actually for yeah, it's fine. It's actually really nice to type on realistically. Realistically, it's really nice to type on. Super snappy for such a low profile thing. Not a lot of travel, right? It's style. It depends what you like. Some people would die for this keyboard, realistically. You know, this is what they love. I know there's people out there who just absolutely adore these like super low profile keyboards. And if that's your thing, you're going to love it. It's not my thing, but you may. I'm a Canadian, so it looks like the French have taken over and invaded. So we get dual language here, multi-language keyboard, English and French, en français. I'm assuming if you're American or something, you wouldn't get that. Maybe Europeans, no idea. But in Canada, you just get multilingual. That's just the way it comes. Power button up there. Trackpad is absolutely astronomically massive. I don't know if this will come across on camera, but this thing is freaking huge. Like, you know, a lot of the times they're going to be like that. That's still big, right? They're wide. This is the biggest trackpad I've ever seen. I don't even know what I could compare to this thing. Like a straight up freaking handheld. Like that's a handheld. And it's like shorter. Like a whole measuring scale. It's like not much smaller than a measuring scale. So stupid. It's too big for me. That's too big for me. Some people may like that. It's insane. Very smooth. Very, very, very smooth. Super precise. And the clicks are nice and sharp. And we'll have a look at the pen here. So yeah, we're going to go in the pen mode here. So obviously it's touchscreen, like you can use your finger. You can use it like this here. You can draw it like that. That's a relatively low wobble on that screen. I guess it's super thin. Like the laptop, the whole thing is metal, relatively heavy, I'd say, for how thin it is. Not like heavy, bad heavy, but it's heavy enough. It's not super light. So the actual laptop isn't going to raise up, and the hinges look good. Not a lot of spring on that. Like I'm banging that, right? So if you're actually just writing like that, just taking some quick notes rather than doing it, no problems whatsoever. That's actually quite nice. So, okay, and you'll see when we get to the screen section, it's 120 Hertz, so that'll be nice. So we can use it like that. Does that actually disable the trackpad? Yes, it does. Trackpad is disabled. Very good. Pivot worked very well. Very nice. Okay, I'm going to kill off a couple of these lights here so there's not just like brutal reflection. Let's put it in this mode here, like an actual piece of paper. Yeah. Very, like, I mean, it's 120 Hertz refresh rate, so it feels like the polling is pretty good. Like that feels nice. But we'll just do a quick little drawing here. I like that it's a soft tip as well. Yeah, I'm liking this quite a bit. Let's finish my little drawing here. Okay, so that's my little shitty Spider-Man, and I'm happy about that. I went quiet for, I don't even know how long that was, just to draw because it's super early in the morning, and I felt like drawing Spider-Man. Okay, so that's good. It's fine. It feels really nice, actually. Let's go back here, and I do want to check some of the like wobble. It's help if I picked a color. Yeah, that's really good, actually. There's like zero wobble. My hand is probably wobbling. It's very late at night and I'm all jacked up on caffeine. But that's really nice, actually. See, that was me going wee, wee, wee. But the actual pen is good. So I think you could actually draw on this. I mean, again, it's not a drawing tablet. It's not a drawing tablet. But I don't think you would have too much of an issue. Looks pretty good. Yeah, so the drawing aspect of it is very good. So the screen, see that, how I turned on the light there? See how you can barely see that? It is an AMOLED screen, and Samsung are magicians, and they have magical powers that they manage to maintain like a weird glossy screen look, but it's not that glossy, because a lot of times when you have a super glossy screen, it's very reflective and very glossy. I'll bring in the Lenovo here for a second for this part, because I think this is actually relevant. This is something that might distinguish these two laptops from you. You know, the Lenovo being more powerful, the Samsung being more not. Samsung being less reflective, but you can see the reflectivity there. See my like microphone thing there? I mean, it's black, but still. Even so, right? Even if we come into, you know, like a relatively black scene here, see that there? So now we have two black scenes. That's Lenovo. You can see me. Well, you can see me, but barely. So that's the difference there. This is an IPS screen. They are going to have an OLED version of it. I'm assuming it's going to be a glossy OLED. I'm fine with OLEDs. I'm fine with glossy. I don't mind it at all. Glossy screens pop even more. But Samsung just, I don't know what, they have magical powers because they managed to make a screen like this that is not quite as vibrant, but it's still extremely vibrant. And this is not an OLED, so it's a hard comparison. But you can see how good those blacks are. Even though it's not an OLED, it's really good. But, you know, imagine this with an OLED version. It's going to be popped just ever so slightly more than the Samsung. But these guys just do wizardry. I don't know what the freak Samsung does to make their screens look so nice. Very nice. And it's high resolution, 1800p. 1600p would be okay at this size, but, you know, once you get into 1600, once you get to 16 inches, 1800p becomes like really sharp, actually. That little extra couple hundred pixels, it does add quite a bit, actually. So incredibly vibrant reds. We'll see if my phone can pick that up, my camera. I have two cameras, but those are really nice reds there. Blacks, I mean, it's an AMOLED, so let's bring that down so you can see what I see. like that there. That's about what I see there. Really good blacks. My recording devices do freak out when you have AMOLEDs and OLED screens where you don't have pixels on in these places here, right? And then you have color. It doesn't know how to deal with it because it's like there's like weird little pinpoints of color. So it's tough for me to record these kind of things here. You have like special hardware almost to do it, right? And then it becomes dim. That's pretty normal. So if it looks washed out, just rest assured it is not washed out. It looks incredible. Go like that there. Very vibrant, beautiful scene here. Incredibly vibrant greens. Yeah, nice. Not overly warm, not overly cool. It's looking just generally pretty nice here. A little bit further on. Blue's looking good. Really, really nice blues there. Vibrant greens. Purples are really nice. Yeah, it's looking pretty good in here. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, this screen here it's a 10 out of 10. I mean, you're not really sure how you make it better. If it was a gaming laptop, I mean, you could add like G-Sync and stuff like that, but it's not. It's just such a nice screen. So, I mean, that's obviously one of the selling features here is this truly outstanding screen. Okay, so let's have a listen to the audio here. We do have the Dolby Smart Effect. We can play with that in a sec, but let's just get it kind of like baseline when you just turn the laptop on and see what it sounds. They sound fine. They're really quiet though, which is weird. Let's come in here and try some of this stuff here. They're really quiet. Let's try that, see if that makes a difference. Whoa, okay, yeah. So turn on Dolby Atmos, like straight up. Let's turn that down now. With it off, it was so quiet. Okay, so on dynamic, at least when it's really loud, there's a little bit of a tinny rattle to it. It's pretty loud. It sounds all right. Pretty good. I'd say nothing special, but pretty good. Let's come in here and listen to music. Let's try that. Balanced, sure. It gets quieter, that's fine. Sounds significantly better on music for music, because when it was on dynamic, it was kind of hurting my ears. It was a bit tinny. It's quite a bit quieter on music though. But it sounds a lot better. Let's try custom. It's so loud. Try something like that. Let's actually kind of bring down the high end of it. Yeah, so I mean, you can play with it. They're pretty good, I'd say. Music does bring down the volume quite a bit. But it sounds better for music. Dynamic really gets a lot louder, but it becomes a little bit tinny, unfortunately, at the high end. So the speakers are good. I wouldn't call them resounding success. They're nowhere near a MacBook, not even close. They're actually not as nice as the Lenovo Slim 7i. The Aura edition with the Lunar, they're not as nice as that, and some of the Yoga stuff from Lenovo. But they're nice. They're overall pretty good. Again, very thin laptop. Right, super thin laptop with just a couple fires down there, but they're not in the same level as MacBook. So just so you know that's probably going to be the one spot that these fall a bit short, but it's not going to be bad. They're not bad by any means. Like there are vastly worse speakers out there in the world. These are just going to be fine, I would say. Nice and clear, no problems. So they're fine, but they're certainly not going to blow your socks off or anything like that. Let's look at some of the programs here, though. This thing comes with all kinds of crap. Not my kind of thing. I'm not a fan, but that's okay. Maybe some people like that. You want to have your Samsung tablet / laptop. You want to tie that into your actual Samsung tablet, into your Samsung phone. You do want to do that, kind of like the Apple thing, but in Windows where everything is integrated. Sure, it's not my thing, but you can do it. All these Samsung apps here. Well, Dolby's not. Dolby's the sound profile. All these Samsung. I install that window. That's Intel Arc. You want to get that. McAfee. Well, McAfee can come off, of course. Of course, that can come off. That's actual bloatware. Right. I mean, typical Windows stuff. And then a fair bit of, Samsung, all the Samsung stuff. It's up to you whether you want to use this stuff or not. It's like there's just so much Samsung. Oh, Samsung Smart App here. Samsung or Galaxy Book Experience is what they call it. And it's just all this bloatware crap in here. You may like it. I don't know. It's your choice. It's not my thing. I would immediately get rid of this stuff. But if you're a Samsung person, maybe you like the integration from Samsung to Samsung devices. And if so, it's fantastic, right? It's kind of like an Apple type experience, right? It'd be super cool. Not my kind of thing though, but you can, I agree. No, I'm not going to send you even more data. So that's that. Yeah, so let's go continue on. We'll look at some more cool stuff here. Okay, we're going to check out some Cinebench here. I don't expect the scores to be good based on my experience with Lunar Lake so far, but that doesn't mean anything because I also found that Lunar Lake was significantly faster than some much higher scoring chips in real world stuff like video editing. So, I mean, a lot of people look at these synthetic benchmarks like they're the end of the world and they're like, oh my God, look at the synthetic benchmarks. That means that this one is better than this one. And then in the real world, it makes no difference whatsoever. And in fact, the one that's slower might actually be faster. And that's what I found in my Lenovo Slim 7i Aura edition, that the Intel chip was actually easily outperforming AMD's 7840U in video editing by like 30-40%, despite the fact that in Cinebench it was actually 30-40% slower. So just be aware of that. You look at these benchmarks, you're like, that means that something is good or bad. It doesn't. It means it's bad at Cinebench. Right? Anyways, ramble done. Let's check the noise is what I want to check here. We'll get into the benchmarks after this, but let's check the noise levels here. We're on performance mode, which should tap into the actual Samsung thing. And you can see the watts there. It's working, 36 watts. We'll give it a sec. There's no sound right now, so we'll give it a second for the fans to kick in. Maybe. All right, we're getting up there. Maybe the fans will kick in. I don't know. There they go. They're starting to turn up a little bit here. So you'll get a lot of time if you're just doing like short burst stuff with the fans not doing anything. I guess the fans kicked up there and because the temperatures came down. I guess that's peak for noise then. Okay, so it's going to be super quiet. 36.3 or so under like full load. I guess almost 37, 38, so super freaking quiet. And that's to the point where it's actually bringing down the temperatures here. Let's come into balanced. See if the watts drop. They did. There they go. They went down by about 5. Okay. The noise level did not drop, however. It's basically exactly the same. Let's go down to silent. Performance mode silent. Let's see if the watt, there they go. The watts drop way down to 15. By the way, this chip is incredibly efficient to the point where it gets a lot of its performance at 15. So you can just like leave this thing in silent mode. Temperature's way down now in the 60s. Fan's still going, but whatever. They're pretty quiet. Yeah, so I mean, whatever. It's just going to do its thing. So yeah, you'll see like the score. We'll take a peek, but you see the scores there. Like, oh my God, it's only 10,000. The AMD 7840U was able to do that and get like 13,000, 14,000, which it was. But I've been finding in the real world doesn't make a difference. I mean, this is Cinebench. So, the Lunar Lake chips aren't good at Cinebench. Congratulations. It doesn't mean anything. Let's see how they perform in games. Let's see how they perform in rendering tasks, these type of things that actually matter. So let's jump into some benchmarks here and we'll get an idea of how this thing actually performs now that we know that it runs very quiet. What I want to highlight here is that a lot of people will look at synthetic benchmarks, things like Cinebench, and take that as face value for how good a CPU is, which doesn't really mean that much, especially when you're looking at specific specialized workflows. This Cinebench here on this CPU here was getting around 10,000, very close to what I was getting on the Lenovo laptop with the Lunar Lake. So that's 10,000. That's not great, realistically. That's about 30% lower than a couple generations old AMD, the 7840U, for example. And just like the Lenovo, what I wanted to do here is I wanted to show how this potentially doesn't really matter in the real world. So I've loaded up here a video editing, some video editing software here. I loaded in a bunch of 4K 60 clips here. And then I also loaded in a second track just to make it a little bit more challenging. Then I ran the result. Then I actually rendered it, and it took 7 minutes and 43 seconds, which was basically exactly the same as what I got on the Lenovo, which makes sense. I mean, it's hardware encoding with the exact same basic hardware. Then I did the exact same test on the 7840U from AMD. So that chip got 30% faster in Cinebench, but you can see here that it's actually 2 minutes slower in video rendering. So that's why these synthetic benchmarks don't necessarily tell you a lot, right? You actually want to use the chip in the tasks that you care about. And I think that these Lunar Lake chips are going to be used by people who are doing things like video production, right? They have dedicated hardware encoders, which means they're going to run much faster than what you might think if you're looking at something like Cinebench, right? You're going to look at Cinebench and think, man, this thing is not that fast at all. It's actually pretty slow. But in the real world, it is much faster than you might think when it comes to dedicated tasks. Battery life is very good on this laptop. You can see here that this is just kind of idling. Ignore the Windows remaining, it doesn't mean anything. I just wanted to show that it's at 91%. And we have an average of negative 3.4 watts on the 70 watt hour or so battery. I think it's like 73 watt hour battery. Yeah, 1,500 minutes left. That's like 20, I don't even know, that's like 23 hours, 22 hours of idle. It's just a lot. It's a lot, right? You're going to be getting like 23, 24 hours of idle. This is at 100% brightness, full refresh. I don't mess around and turn things down. So you're going to be getting, like, when I say all day idle, I mean like you leave your laptop on and you come back the next day at the same time and it's probably still got some battery. Then I did some heavy browsing, what I consider heavy browsing. It's like Prime Day when I'm recording this. I'm just ripping through all these different Prime deals, which is actually very intensive on CPUs realistically because you're firing it up and down and up and down. And typically it's really bad on Intel CPUs that have a hard time kind of, getting those watts down afterwards. And you can see here that we're sitting at about negative 6.8 watts during like the heaviest parts of this here. I did look for 10 minutes or something like that here. And even during this, we're going to be getting around 11 to 12, probably about 12 hours of heavy browsing, which is actually much more intensive than you might think because you're constantly using the CPU. So 12 hours of heavy use is what I'd call this here. Maybe not video editing, but heavy day-to-day use. Then some YouTube here, fired up one of my videos, 4K 60 YouTube, and dropped down a little bit more, obviously, because once the video is rendered, it doesn't need to rip the CPU anymore. We're under 6 watts now, and we're getting, it says about here, about 840 minutes at 88%. Again, you're looking at probably 15 or 16 hours of YouTube playback, 100% brightness, and I mean, incredible. We're going from Intel being basically the laughing stock of the laptop market when it comes to battery life to the best, I think, realistically. It's crazy. Then we're going to look at the SSD. It's nothing impressive here. It's just some Samsung thing, Gen 3 speeds. I don't know if potentially that's the actual port on it is limited to Gen 3 speeds or the actual drive is limited to it, but it's not overly fast. It's not going to really matter. I mean, even video editing, you're not going to notice it. It's going to be super fast, but it's not some blazing fast NVMe if that matters, which it probably won't. Wi-Fi also was not super fast, but it was fine. I mean, that's a bit lower than what my Wi-Fi actually normally does. Usually it's around 600, but again, it's still relatively fast Wi-Fi 6E. So overall, the benchmarks are pretty good on such a thin, tiny little laptop, especially when it comes to things like dedicated video encoding. Okay, so here is the webcam. A thing popped up that says Studio Effects. You guys can't see it. It says Studio Effects. And there's like a background effect. Obviously, you can do like that, whatever. I think this is just Windows stuff. But it looks like it's really weirdly Smoothing, yeah, maybe that'll help. Yeah, that helps a bit, I guess. I mean, I don't have horrible lighting. I don't have the best lighting, but it's a little weird what it's doing with the effects there. But I mean, it's okay. I mean, the polling rate is fine. Looks like it has good polling rate. I have a decent amount of light coming from this side. Pretty dark over there, I guess. So it's doing a pretty good job. There was a little bit of a weird effect when the light was out. It's like really trying to brighten me up, which is weird. But there's still a lot of light coming from the front, so that's a little strange. But overall, I'd say it's a decent enough webcam. It'll get the job done. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of game testing here. Not a ton in this video because I do have a follow-up iGPU test video coming where I'll be testing the Intel Arc, I guess version 2, whatever you want to call it, and comparing to some AMD stuff. But you can see here in Baldur's Gate, we're in Last Light In, which is a very demanding area of the game. There's a lot going on here. We're at 1200p medium, no scaling. No scaling, just to repeat that. Look at that performance. This is the type game that actually kills iGPUs. Like if you're playing this on a handheld, you're cranking up realistically for this like medium, balanced, sometimes performance FSR to really get performance here. And this is running really well. Look at that. Right, quite good, realistically. So I will do a little bit of screenshots after this, just like I did in the Slim 7i with the Lenovo. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna have a full follow-up video with lots of game testing on this iGPU. It's gonna be the same chip realistically. This performance, a slightly different chip than the one in the Slim 7i, but it looks like it's gonna be pretty close actually in terms of performance there. I did want to look at VRAM usage because this system only has 16 gigabytes of RAM. So it looks like we're allocating just shy of 6 to the iGPU here. And we only have 16 to work with for the whole system. This is a whole system. So I don't have anything else open, just the game. And some of that, almost 6 gigabytes is coming from the system usage into memory. And so then, the other 9 or 8 is just like standard, traditional DRAM plus whatever Windows is using. So it's a little tight there with 16 gigabytes on this system here, but it's fine. I mean, this is what all of these handhelds are doing. So you're going to get performance, at or above, at least at, potentially above what the current generation of handheld gaming consoles do. Yeah, a little bit of a bump with balanced. It's actually brought up the lows a lot, so I mean you can throw it on if you want. It's not a big jump in performance though, but either way it's going to be really good. I'm actually impressed with how well these are performing, without any form of scaling. Like you can throw this right back off again. Right, it's really good. So, I mean, you're not going to be playing these games at 60 on Ultra Max or anything like that, but this is medium, right? This is not low. You could turn it down if need be, if you really want to, turn it down a little bit. But I'd probably just play on medium. A game like this is going to be fine at 60. Maybe throw it on low. And I don't know, let's just see if it goes up. Right, up a little bit more there. But I mean, probably I just play it on medium. Looks fine, actually, on low. Because there's no scaling. On low, it actually looks really good to realistic. And especially on this really nice screen here. So, yeah, you're going to be able to game very well. Not like, this is not a compromised type of situation here. It's going to be significantly better than a Steam Deck. Significantly better than a Steam Deck. You're going to get performance realistically closer to, ROG Ally, Legion Go, some of the higher end GPD products, and they're going to be, I find that this is actually better realistically than that. But, stay tuned for my follow-up gaming video if that's something you care about, because these are now gaming machines. This, isn't that crazy? This little Galaxy Book thing here is a true gaming machine. Not compromising. I mean, yeah, you're not going to be playing 4K Ultra, but you're going to be playing modern AAA titles with respectable settings, and you're playing older games, they'll just be absolutely tearing. So that's basically the performance here. I do want to see what we can get here on lower watts real quick here. So I did drop it down to silent mode. Look at that. So we're at 15 watts on the system here. Actually below 15 watts. This is like Steam Deck wattages, right? So this is what you're going to get on a Steam Deck. This is massively more performant than a Steam Deck. Steam Deck at 15 watts in Baldur's Gate. First of all, there's no freaking way you're playing on medium. And 1200p. A Steam Deck is 800p and not medium. You're playing on like low 800p with FSR to get this kind of performance here on 15 watts. So, I mean, it's pretty impressive here. Let's come in here, go like that. Let's throw some of these things up here. Maybe we'll throw texturing up to medium just to make it look a little bit better. Throw in a little bit of scaling. Again, we're at 1200p, so we can probably get away with a little bit here. Yeah, look at that. So just balanced FSR on medium. Medium low mix, sorry. Right, and that's only 15 watts. And again, it's a very hard to run game. Let's just quickly drop down to like, if it'll let me, like kind of Steam Deck settings. Yeah, Steam Deck is 800p, 1800p, sorry. And we can probably turn down a lot of that scaling, maybe just quality. And then we're still on medium low mix, 1200p, 800p medium low mix with just the lightest amount of scaling. And we're at 12 freaking watts. Look at that. Very good. Okay, it's been a little over a day and a half, 2 days. What do I think about the laptop here? The Samsung Galaxy Book 5 Pro. It turns into a little 2-in-1 type thing. Comes with the pen. Well, okay, let's go over the negatives first. Pricing is fine. I guess I'll give it like a medium. It's fine for what it is. I got a lot of sales on, like a lot of sales stacked on, which made it a little bit more affordable. I think at full price it's a little pricey, but it can be had for a reasonable price. Getting inside the laptop is incredibly difficult, absurdly difficult, so that's negative, I suppose. Not much to do in there, realistically. All you can really do is upgrade the SSD, but at least it's a full-length 2280 NVMe, so you can swap that in there and get yourself more storage, 4 terabytes or whatever, that'll be fine. So, I mean, that's the real negatives. The speakers are okay. They're not shocking or anything like that. They're okay. I thought they'd be better, but they're all right. They're okay. So that's the real negatives. I mean, there's not really much more else to be negative-wise. I mean, you know what you're buying into here. You're buying into a MacBook-like product. I don't often throw around the MacBook-like product, but I'm doing it more with the Lunar Lake stuff because that's what they're targeting. They're trying to pull people away from the Mac audience because, you know, the Macs are good with incredibly good battery life and relatively sleek and high. They're premium, good screens, and, you know, very good battery life. That's a huge selling feature of Macs. But the downside is you have Mac OS. So if you don't want Mac OS, then you don't want Mac OS. Sometimes you're going to go into it anyways, even though you don't necessarily want it. Here, you don't have that issue. You have a lot of really good benefits here that you would normally get on a Mac, though. Beautiful screen, 1800p AMOLED screen is gorgeous. It's like a weird semi-gloss, but it looks like a glossy screen, but the reflections are really low. Outstanding. I mean, that's a 10 out of 10, 100% fantastic screen, arguably the best that I've ever used. I mean, I don't know how you could make the screen any better. Like, it's just not possible. It's such a good screen. Yeah, I mean, keyboard is not my vibe. I don't like that kind of keyboard, but I can see why people would like it. It's basically a MacBook keyboard, but it actually has a numpad, so I mean, that's immediately an improvement. Super low profile, whatever, it's your thing. It's fine. It's good for what it is. Gigantic, monstrous trackpad, also not my thing, but I can see why people would like it. Super thin, super, like, impossibly thin. It's gonna look way bigger on camera, but look at that. Look at that compared to my head. Tiny little thing, super, super thin, metal all the way around, you know, does the 360 thing. The pen is great, honestly. Like, I find it to, look how snappy the system is. Pen is super responsive here. It feels nice to write with it. I mean, yeah, it's just a fantastic laptop. It's not going to be for everyone. I mean, you're locked into 16 gigabytes of RAM. One of the primary negatives, and probably the biggest negative by far, 16 gigabytes of RAM locked in. They're on chip now, so I mean, it's a little bit different now. It's not like they're opting to not solder it to the motherboard. It just doesn't work that way. The chip itself, the Intel chip, actually has the RAM on the chip itself, so it is what it is. The only way of increasing the RAM here is to increase the chip. I would like to see them do that. I mean, this thing could easily handle, you know, the higher chip that the Lenovo Yoga has down there, or, you know, Lenovo Slim 7i down there has the higher Intel chip option, which gets it into the 32 gigabytes of RAM. I'd love to see that on a laptop like this because, yeah, it's 16 gigabytes. It's not actually a MacBook. Windows is a significantly more bloated operating system than Mac. So, I mean, 16 gigabytes it'll work, but it is cutting it. I'd like to see 24 or 32 gigabytes. So just give us access to that chip, the 32 gigabyte equipped Intel chip. That would be fantastic. But I mean, yeah, there's not really much to hate other than the negative with the RAM, I would say. It's doing exactly what it wants to do. It's doing it fantastically well. Absolutely shockingly outstanding battery life on this laptop. Incredibly good screen, super thin, super portable, great performance because that Intel chip actually performs super well at those watts that it supplies. So I'm a huge fan of this laptop. This thing here is really nice. Really nice.